The parade ground of the Galactic Defense Academy stretched like a mirror beneath the twin suns of Kepler 442b, its surface gleaming with the promise of order and discipline. 200 cadets stood in perfect formation, their uniforms crisp, their postures rigid. Among them, Emma Martinez stood out, not because she wanted to, but because she was human, and humans were still a novelty in the greater galactic community. Drill instructor Vexthor, a Crithian with scales that shimmered like oil on water, paced before the assembled cadets. His four eyes swept across the ranks with the precision of a predator selecting prey. When his gaze landed on Emma, those eyes narrowed. "Cadet Martinez." His voice boomed across the parade ground, carrying the weight of authority that had broken lesser beings. "Step forward." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs, but her face remained impassive. She had learned early in her academy career that showing fear to species who could smell it was a tactical error. She marched forward, her boots striking the ground with measured precision, and stopped 3 paces from the drill instructor. "Sir," she acknowledged, her voice steady. Vexthor circled her slowly, deliberately. "I have reviewed your performance in the obstacle course yesterday. Your time was adequate for a human." The way he said human made it sound like a disease. "However, I have also reviewed footage from the lunar base incident 3 weeks ago." Emma's jaw tightened imperceptibly. "The lunar base incident, of course. You disobeyed a direct order from your squad leader," Vexthor continued. "You broke formation to retrieve 2 cubs, Valorian cubs, who had wandered into a restricted zone during the emergency evacuation drill. Sir, they were children. They were frightened and—" "Silence!" Vexthor's roar echoed across the parade ground. "You do not speak unless spoken to, cadet. Those children belonged to Ambassador Krellvan. They were in no actual danger. The drill was controlled. You, however, created chaos. You undermined the chain of command. You demonstrated that humans cannot follow simple orders." He stepped closer, so close that Emma could see the intricate patterns in his scales. "The Galactic Defense Force has no place for loose cannons who prioritize sentiment over protocol." With a swift motion, Vexthor reached for Emma's right sleeve. The merit badge, the small circular insignia that marked her as one of the top 10 cadets in her class, was sewn there. It represented 6 months of blood, sweat, and tears. 6 months of proving that a human could compete with species who were faster, stronger, and more technologically advanced. The tearing sound seemed impossibly loud. Vexthor held the badge up for all to see, then let it fall to the ground like refuse. "You are stripped of your merit status, Cadet Martinez. Perhaps this will teach you the value of obedience." Emma stared straight ahead, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She would not cry. She would not give him the satisfaction. "Dismissed," Vexthor barked. Emma saluted, performed an about-face, and marched back to her position in the formation. She could feel 200 pairs of eyes on her, some pitying, some satisfied, most simply indifferent. She was just another cadet who had failed to measure up. The formation was dismissed an hour later. Emma headed straight for her quarters, ignoring the whispers that followed her like shadows. She had almost reached the dormitory when a small voice called out, "Emma! Emma, wait!" She turned to see Leo, a Valorian cub no taller than her waist, running toward her. His golden fur caught the sunlight and his large, luminous eyes were filled with concern. Behind him, 3 more cubs followed, the ones she had rescued during the drill. "Leo, you shouldn't be here," Emma said softly, kneeling down to his level. "If Instructor Vexthor sees you talking to me—" "We know what he did," Leo interrupted, his small paws clenching into fists. "We saw everything. The whole academy saw it on the broadcast screen." Emma blinked. Of course. The disciplinary action had been public, meant to serve as an example. One of the other cubs, a female named Zara, stepped forward. She held something in her paws, Emma's merit badge carefully cleaned. "This is yours. You earned this. I can't take it back," Emma said gently. "Orders are orders." "Then we'll give it back to you properly," Leo declared with the fierce determination only children possessed. "Tomorrow, at the morning assembly, in front of everyone." Emma started to protest, but the look in Leo's eyes stopped her. It was the same look she had seen 3 weeks ago when she had found him and the others huddled in the restricted zone, terrified by the blaring alarms and flashing emergency lights. It was trust, pure, absolute trust. The next morning, as 200 cadets assembled for the daily briefing, something unprecedented happened. As drill instructor Vexthor began his opening remarks, 4 small figures marched onto the parade ground. The Valorian cubs moved with surprising discipline, forming a line directly in front of Emma's position. Vexthor's voice died in his throat. The entire assembly fell silent. Leo stepped forward, holding Emma's merit badge high above his head. Drill instructor Vexthor, his young voice carried surprising authority. You took this from Cadet Martinez because she saved us. You said she disobeyed orders. But the first order of the Galactic Defense Force is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We are cubs. We were scared. She protected us. Zara stepped forward next. My father is Ambassador Krelvan. He says that humans have something you cannot teach. They call it compassion. They see people, not just protocols. The third cub produced a needle and thread where they had gotten such things Emma couldn't imagine. We are going to return this badge, he announced, because it belongs to someone who deserves it. Before Vexthor could react, the cubs surrounded Emma. With tiny, careful paws, they began to sew the merit badge back onto her sleeve. The stitches were clumsy, uneven, nothing like the precise military standard, but every single one was sewn with love and determination. The parade ground remained absolutely silent. Emma stood frozen, tears streaming freely down her face now because this was beyond protocol, beyond orders, beyond anything she had trained for. Vexthor watched, his 4 eyes unreadable. Finally, when the last stitch was complete, he spoke. Cadets returned to formation. The cubs saluted Emma, a gesture they had clearly practiced, and scurried off the parade ground. Vexthor approached Emma slowly. For a long moment, he simply stared at the crudely sewn badge on her sleeve. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched upward. Cadet Martinez, he said quietly, so only she could hear. Perhaps humans do have something to teach the rest of us after all. He turned to address the formation. Let this be a lesson to all of you. The mark of a true defender is not blind obedience. It is knowing when the spirit of the law supersedes the letter of it. Dismissed. As the formation broke apart, Emma touched the uneven stitches on her sleeve. They were imperfect, irregular, completely against regulation. They were perfect.